it feels like it's the middle of the night outside, but it's only 5:30. I also did just nap, and it even more feels like I've woken up in the middle of the night, and it's quiet. It's just quiet. I don't know how I'm gonna do this for like 5 minutes. Okay, that's not what the video is about. The video is about 5 books. The books that I must finish before the year ends. I don't really set reading goals for the year because I don't like books, like specific books that I have to read, this and that. I'm a massive mood reader, and even though technically that book challenge, the Bewitched book challenge, is still going on, I've just stopped reading books that I'm happy with wherever I am, and you'll get the last update next week, and whatever I've read, and whatever I read now, it's gonna have to like match up in some way. So yeah, anyways, like I was saying, I don't have any specific book goals that I set for the year that I want to read this number of classics or non-fiction, I want to read more in this area, I want to read this specific book because I've had it on my shelves for a long time. But you know, I think those are good aims in general to have, and I think I go through phases where I'm like, I want to read an ebook more, I want to read for my shelves more, or I want to read new books that I don't have more. But I have started quite a few books that I have not completed. I think those are the ones that I really want just off my plate, out of my head, before the end of the year. I want them to be marked as read on Goodreads. I don't want them to be currently readings for the past 3-4 years, which can sometimes happen. And at the beginning of the year, one of those books that I had was Picnic at Hanging Rock by Lindsay Joan, which is one of the great Australian novels. I had started reading that in 2021, never finished it, and this January I finally finished it, and it made me feel really good to just tick that off. So I have a couple of those books here, and I want to talk about them to you today. So the first one, which I have kind of already picked up now, is O Caledonia by Elspeth Barker. This is, I think, a very widely renowned and classic Scottish novel. It's about this young girl called Jeannette, and basically her childhood and life growing up. However, she's quite a spirited child, doesn't exactly get along with her family, and it's a retrospective on her life, and this is not a spoiler because it's literally how the book starts. It's a retrospective on how she's grown up and the type of child she's been, as she lies dead on the staircase in her grandmother's lace gown at the age of 16. So she dies very young. Yeah, oh, look, The Best Least Known Novel of the 20th Century by Ali Smith. It's beautiful writing so far. I picked this up again a couple of years ago, I do believe. I started this in 2022 or 2021. And it's just really good, and I like the Scottish writers. I like the Scottish countryside description. And by the way, this is kind of comical writing. I think the reason I left it because that it wasn't exactly as funny or comedic as I was expecting it to be the first time round, and I really wasn't expecting it to go like deep into her childhood, from like her siblings being born and like her going to school. And to be fair, like I'm only 50 pages in, so there's still quite a bit of the novel left, and she's already, I think, 12 or 13. But yeah, it's a very well regarded novel. It's got amazing reviews. I do like the writing, and it's a nice copy. This is the thing, it's a very nice readable copy. I hate when the pages are thin, so I feel like I can read this, and I want to know, how did she die? That's what I want to know. So, gosh, this is like a terrible review because no, not terrible review. I feel like this is a very difficult video for me to speak in and probably for you to watch, but I'm just not fully awake from my nap, so this was probably not the time to film it. But anyways, next one, I don't have the book with me because I'm reading it as an ebook, but it's Flatland, A Romance of Many Dimensions by Edwin A. Abbott. This is about, the novel split into 2 parts. I would kind of call it a novella, but it's been taking me ages to read, and I'll tell you why. It's split into 2 parts. The first part is a resident of a 2-dimensional land or planet or world or universe, as you may say. He's telling you about his society, his culture, his history, how to distinguish other shapes, and blah blah blah. And he's telling that, and he's got quite a pompous tone about it. He's like, you know, obviously we're this and that. And then the second part of it is where he comes into contact from a being from Spaceland, i.e. the 3rd dimension, who's like, you have no idea that there's so much more to the world. And he's like, he's kind of shook because he spent so much time loftily telling you about Flatland. The reason I picked this up was because I don't know if it was recommended to me or someone, like, I don't know if someone said that it was very much like We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, or I just thought from the description that it sounds a lot like that novel, which I really, really liked and wanted to, you know, read something else like that. But it's not really like that at all, and the writing is very schoolmasterly. It's very deep in the mathematics. It can be quite dry, which is why it's taken me a long time. I mean, it is definitely still interesting enough that I'm invested and want to finish the book, especially because it's a short book. But yeah, so far I've picked it up again. Yes, I have now picked it up again, and it's like great to read before bed because like the chapter is also quite short. It'll be like note 1, note 2, note 3, and they're like, so they're very short chapters, not more than a page or 2 pages. And yeah, they just put me to sleep, so they're great to read before bed. But it's very slow progress getting through that one. But I'm hopeful, I'm confident that I will get through it before the year is over. So that's Flatland. Edwin A. Abbott was like an evangelical teacher and schoolmaster, so I guess that's why it was written like that, especially because I don't know, it was first published in early 1900s, 1800s, something like that. Anyway, the next book I have here is a non-fiction book. It's Growing Up in the 1960s by Peter Doggett. He's a British journalist and is kind of a compilation of transformations in the sexual revolution. I don't know if I should say it on YouTube or not. People don't say it, but I don't think this type of censorship is right. But also feel bad saying it. So I don't know. No, you know what? I don't feel bad saying it. That's just what the book's about. But yeah, so he's kind of collected many little vignettes and stories about how the sexual landscape within the 1960s in the UK, specifically England specifically, transformed and changed. And if you think back, you know, that's a time of like kind of the hippie movement, the free love movement. There was a sexual liberation movement happening, very widespread in the US as well. So I just like, it's a topic, it's a sociocultural change and also like a biological change that I found quite interesting, and I wanted to read about it. However, like it pretty much started off with like, it was interesting the approaches he took, because he talked a little bit about, you know, Lolita being published illicitly in Paris and then they used to smuggle it into England, and how that affected literature and little like movies that would be released, especially when the film adaptation by Kubrick came out. And then also like how it sort of like, you know, kind of influenced young little starlets who were obviously minors but would be treated in the public space like adults and have relationships with adults. of an adult nature. I wasn't expecting, maybe I should have expected it, but for some reason I did not think that there would be so many pedophilic cases in it, and there's so much about pedophilia. Wow. I was like, wow, everyone's just a pedophile. There's predatory behavior everywhere, which is, in hindsight and retrospect, not surprising at all for that time, given the sociocultural status of women, just given how society and sexism was built at the time, given the fact that there wasn't as much freedom of speech and independence and social protections, in my opinion, that women can put into their own hands now. And I think there was also a lack of understanding for parents, because they were just willy-nilly just being like, okay, yeah, we'll send our friend with this lord, we'll send our daughter with this lord because he's being so kind and placing affections on our family, nothing bad will happen. I don't know. Or like, okay, why were parents letting their children marry fucking men who were like 20-30 years older than them? I don't. So it's kind of that, which is why it kind of gets kind of harrowing, so I put it down. But I was 100 pages in, so I have this much to read, which feels like a lot. And I guess, oh god, picture of Yoko Ono's bum. Yeah, I just feel like I would like to have this read, because I was finding it interesting. I just like think I got stuck. I just want this off my list. I want to be done reading it by the end of this year and not carry it over into next year. The next two actually are just a little bit more like, I want to get these off my bookshelves. Well, actually definitely the next one, and that's Sexing the Cherry by Jeannette Winterson. I know she's really critically acclaimed. They? Oh, it says she. But I just haven't liked anything I've read by Jeannette Winterson. I bought this a couple of years ago before I realized I don't really like her writing, because I hadn't read that much of her then, but I've tried her a couple of times. I've sampled quite a few of the Jeannette Winterson writings, and I just don't connect with her narrative, the story she's telling. It's very, again, it is kind of a retrospective, and she weaves in like her autobiography and her own memories and stuff into the narrative she's telling, and it just kind of doesn't really work for me. Like, again, it doesn't land, it doesn't impact me. Unfortunately, it's just not written for me. Otherwise, like, a lot of people love her, and that's good, that's their prerogative, but for me it doesn't work. So Sexing the Cherry celebrates the power of the imagination as it playfully juggles with our perceptions of history and reality, love and sex, lies and truth, and the 12 dancing princesses who lived happily ever after, but not with their husbands. I know this one is kind of, again, nice short book, so I'm really confident I'll finish this before the end of the year, but it's I think each chapter is based off the different like fairy tales and stuff, and she weaves them in. She's done that with the Greek myth of Atlas in the book Wait, which was like a Greek myth retelling series. And again, I just like was really excited for it, and I didn't like it, and I've ended up giving that book away. So even though, like, okay, inside this book is kind of really cute, I have to admit, like, look at that. They have a little princess booked, so I do kind of want to keep it, even though the cover's really ugly. But if I don't like it, if I'm just not gonna pick it up again, she's leaving. She's finding another house. And then the last one I have here is For One More Day by Mitch Albom. I've read The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. This is one of those like slice of life, feel good, teach you something deep about life. And yeah, The 5 People You Meet by Heaven was definitely like that, but I've just had this for years and years, and or like, no, my mom had it, and then she gave it to me, and she was like, oh, I'll give it away unless you want to read it. And I was like, I do want to read it, but then I haven't read it. So let's just read it. Let's read it. If you want to know what it's about, Charlie Benetto is a broken man, his life destroyed by alcohol and regret. He loses his job, he leaves his family, he hits rock bottom after discovering he won't be invited to his only daughter's wedding, and he decides to take his own life. Charlie takes a midnight ride to a small hometown, his final journey. But as he staggers into his old house, he makes an astonishing discovery. His mother, who died 8 years earlier, is there and welcomes Charlie home as if nothing had ever happened. What follows is the one seemingly ordinary day so many of us yearn for, a chance to make good with a lost parent, to explain the family secrets, and to seek forgiveness. I feel like this might make me cry. Yeah, I feel like this might make me cry. Yeah, but basically those are all the books I wanted to talk to you about. A bonus one I might have is Klara and the Sun by Ishiguro. I started listening that years ago on audiobook, but it was my first time trying audiobook, and it turns out I don't really like audiobook, and then also my subscription like expired for the audiobook thing, so I just never finished it. So I think I was about 50% through that, so I think maybe if I could finish that as well, I'll get a copy from the library or something. That could also work out really well and make me feel like I've finished everything, tied it up with a nice bow. Would make me feel good about my reading habits in the past year. But yeah, those are the ones that these books I need to finish for 2025. This one, after rereading the blurb, I'm kind of feeling like I want to keep it to the side, but let's see how things go. Anyways, thank you for watching. Let me know which books you want to read before the year ends. And you can subscribe too.